Ryan, you were right. There was chips in there, man. Oh, man. Yeah, that's right. I definitely think a lot of these people are going crazy. Am I right, Box Line? The real health crisis is my waist size. Say, I found this new experimental flavor of bean dip. It's hot. Want some? Oh, fuck you then. You're lost. Say, what do you think's going on in the outside world? Don't you wish we could be reviewing a bike right now? Hey man, we should do a bike review, but this time we'll do it in our imaginations. Yeah, you got it, bud. Well guys, here it is, the Tiger 900. And just take a minute to look at it next to my old Tiger 1200. It is so compact feeling. And you probably heard me laugh getting off the bike. But getting this thing on the center stand is about the easiest thing I've ever done. Well anyways, let's talk about it. And I'm really interested to get into some more riding on this bike. So first of all, this is probably the biggest set of changes to a Triumph Tiger since I would say the 1050 Sport turned into the 800 Adventure. And it is from really a handling perspective and an overall engine setup, chassis setup, frame, suspension is totally different feeling to me. Now I've owned a Tiger 800 that was a 2017 and I've owned a Tiger 1200 now. And I really like those bikes as imperfect as they were. And we're going to get into some of that because there is a bit of a reputation with Triumph. A couple of things that I've noticed with Triumph is it's sort of the neutral brand, which is kind of cool. It seems like you roll up on a Triumph and it's really not offensive to anybody. Everyone's, oh yeah, my dad owned a Triumph, or, you know, it doesn't really matter. But if you show up on anything else, there's the haters and then there's the people who love it. These are a little different. And for a long time, Triumph was trying to compete this Tiger 800, well, the previous Tiger 800, with BMW's series of bikes. Whether it's the 800, 850, I'm talking BMW, or the GS 1200 with this Tiger 1200. And where the Tiger always excelled was on the road. And I don't think that's really debatable. The engine was very smooth. It was capable of high rev. It had a sporty feel. And as far as an adventure bike went, it almost was a hybrid between adventure and sport tour, really. Even in the seating position, in the older Tiger 800s, it had you kind of canted forward. The legs were tucked up. The Tigers have always been a really accessible bike. Seat height is adjustable, but it's pretty low. And as you'll see here, even if you have tiny leggies, I think you're going to be just fine. If anything, Personally, I'd probably go for the rally model because I wouldn't mind it being a little taller. Although the ground clearance is fine, and this is the road model anyways. So let's kind of talk about that. There's two really main models here. Now there's different trim levels that go beyond the two, but for the sake of this video, let's talk about the GT Pro and the Rally Pro. Now the GT Pro is aimed at replacing the Tiger 800 XR series. XR was mag wheels, slightly lower suspension, and it was designed for essentially sport touring in a way. So why would you get this instead of, say, a touring bike or something like that? Well, to me, it's the modularity of these machines. They're like basically playing with adult Legos. You can adjust the luggage capacity to whatever suits your need. You can minimalize it. You can maximize it. You can tour two up. Although I would say, I typically recommend people, if they're really going to be doing a lot of two up riding, I think the 1200's the king there. That said, the road model does offer you some ability to go off-road. Let's say you're moto camping or something like that, and you're just on dirt roads. It can handle that fine. Where these bikes really excel is with the shitty roads in America. We got potholes everywhere. It depends on the state, of course, but Oregon, holy shit, it's from one side of the state to the other, it's dramatically different. And on the west side of the state, there's so many potholes in the road. You basically need an SUV motorcycle so you don't screw up your bike. Now this comes out pretty loaded, so there's not too much you have to end up doing to it. It's got heated grips, it's got heated seats, it's got the fog lights, and all that stuff. It's nice that it comes in a complete package. Now whether it suits your needs, that's a different thing. One thing the GT doesn't have that the Rally has is some hand guards, although I think that's a good thing, and the reason is, as you can see over here on my Tiger, I've got bark busters. Well, it's nice to have that aluminum backbone around this. If you drop the bike, I owned a Tiger 800 with hand guards. It was a XC, and I fell over on the bike one time, and even with the hand guards, it snapped the brake lever right off. So, ever since then, I have always been putting bark busters on. Yeah, they're expensive. It's like $120 for the whole kit if you want the cover. But what does a brake lever cost, or any potential damage to the brake mechanism? Now, another thing you're going to notice is that the headlights are vastly different, and actually, so this is the, I guess, third generation of the Adventure Series headlights. So the second, I would consider, don't pick me apart on that. I'm sure people will. Fuck it. These are much smaller, but they're LED. Now, I haven't tested the headlights yet, but I will say the last generation of LED lights were just astoundingly good. So I'll tinker around with it and find out. Maybe I'll, if there's something that's screwed up about it, I'll let you know, but I seriously doubt there is. I've really only seen good improvements from LED technology, especially when it's from factory, not replacing bulbs and stuff like that. That might let you down, actually. But in this case, when they're designed right, they work great. Now, a couple of other things that are really great about this bike is the simplicity. Yeah, it's got a lot of technology in it. It's got electronic suspension in the rear, manual adjustment up front. And that's not a bad thing, because the truth is there's very little adjustment you need to do up front on this particular geometry setup. So you kind of get it dialed in. I basically never touch it on my 1200. I mean, you get it set up to where you want it, and no matter what I load, most of that weight goes on the rear. The rear is electronically. You can pick a riding program, and you can actually even dial that in a little bit more in the menu. And let's talk more about that. The menus in this are so much better than the 2019 and 2018 model. And the reason is this gigantic, like 8.4 inch screen. It's perfect. It's exactly what this, it actually makes the bike look even smaller because the screen is now so big. Well, I've talked about it in the past. Other manufacturers instantly they had clearer, bigger displays that were more usable. And now Triumph is taking it seriously, which is really nice. You can connect your phone, Bluetooth, and you can run your music control, it'll give you turn-by-turn navigation, and I think it'll even give you text message information as far as receiving a text, I believe, not sending texts. Now, if you have voice comm, you can probably figure out a way to do that. But I do like that you can have that without your phone being up here, so that whenever stuff goes wrong, you get like cracks in the glass. I don't know if you can see that. I've got well, you probably can't see it. I've got cracks in mine, and it's literally from putting it in a RAM mount. It's not a hit on RAM mounts. It's just you're putting your phone on something that's vibrating and it's clamping down on it. So again, back to the simplicity. Where this bike has all that technology, it also takes into account that people are buying this to really have fun with the machine, which means you might be hopping curbs, you might be doing a little bit of off-road. Well, here's an example of simplicity. This adjustable windshield. You simply just pull out and pull up. You can do it while you're on the bike. You don't need to have the electronic aspect, which is just one more thing to break, and you don't have to get off the bike to make changes. That said, it's a pretty dinky windscreen, and if you have subscribed to me, I'm probably the biggest wimp about the wind, as you can see by my gigantic windscreen here. I would probably change that out. But hey, to each their own. I meet a lot of people that they ride straight out in the wind and they don't care. So, either way, this basically is designed to keep the wind off your chest. That's it. For me, it cuts off right here at the high position. Another neat feature about the Triumph Tigers is absolutely that when you buy this, it comes so well equipped. You don't have to option this thing up the ass to get any amount of comfort like some other brands. You get basically everything that you mostly, I would say, you get the 90%. Yeah, you don't get highway pegs, of course. That's what I mean by 90%. You may decide to add things that are really not factory options. However, there's over 65 or something accessories from Triumph for this bike already. The aftermarket's going to be coming around very soon, I'm sure. And this is a rare exception where if I was in the market for one of these mid-weight adventure bikes, I would go for the new model. Typically, I'm a little phobic. I always wait to see what goes wrong with them. But getting on this bike and riding it, there's some interesting things. The first thing I notice is just how the center of gravity has changed over the years. If you sit on my big behemoth piggy bike, it's so top heavy. When you get in turns, you have to muscle it out of turns, even with no luggage on. It is nimble, but it takes some strength to really get it going. This thing feels like a different bike. It feels far different than my Tiger 800. It feels so light, and the turning dynamics are so vastly different that honestly it would take me a little while to get used to that. Not in a bad way, just this feels more comparable to, say, an Africa Twin, where you get on it. Oh, thanks. Apple News. Fuck off. The seat is pretty well cushioned. It's heated. I mean, that's awesome. For another, roughly, let's say $1,000, you can get your panniers. They're, the aluminum panniers. I think that's a good investment personally. The nice thing about the Triumph accessories as far as luggage, as you'll see here, is that it goes on and off the bike so easy, and it's GV basically that makes it, at least up to 2019. If that changed, I'll make a note of it or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is the usability of it is there. Now, one more thing that speaks to the simplicity, and something that, oh my God, I'm so glad, and I was so worried they were going to do this, and they didn't. A key. This key is so nice. I'll tell you, I've reviewed the models that have the keyless system with Triumph, and let's just say I'm not the biggest fan, and I've met people who have owned them who are not big fans of that technology. If it doesn't add anything to the actual experience, I don't see the point. You're paying for that technology, and if it just doesn't do anything for you, for me, I don't know what's so hard about a key. Now, when I owned a Goldwing, my Goldwing had a key fob. Well, that locked the hard luggage that was on the Goldwing, so it was functional. It still had a key, but it did have the wireless aspect. When you're talking about this, where you've got these metal containers that you're attaching, they lock by key, so I don't really see the need for that. And in this case, they nailed it. Simple. If you lose that key, it's probably $50 or something to get a new one. It can't be that much. They can rekey your bike or get a new key for it right at the dealer. And I've seen people come in and do it. It may be less than that, actually. So, whereas if you lose that fucking key fob, oh my God, how many hundreds is that thing? And the reprogramming setup, I'm sure it's a pain for everyone. Anyways, enough about that before I piss off the dealer too much, as I've already borrowed their like high ticket item for you know, to go dork around in here. Now let's talk about this engine, because that is a big change. It's now a 900, it's bigger, and it's still a triple, because as you know, everything is better in threes. Anyways, this engine is very different from what you've experienced in the past with the Tiger. My 2017 Tiger felt like a completely different bike, and this to me doesn't at the low end even feel like a triple. It has this cross-plane T firing order, which is vastly different than the previous the way they balanced the previous generation. I'm not going to get into the technicals of it. You'll hear it. It's got grunt like you can't believe. It's so different. The vibrations are different. They're not bad. You can feel them now, though. I'll tell you that. Overall, the smoothness, it's not as smooth. I'll just put it like that. So if you really liked the Tiger 800s especially in the 18 to 19 range, where they really smoothed out that engine. Same with the 1200. If you get to the newer ones, they're very smooth. If that's what you liked about the Tiger, I don't know what you'll think about this. I think you'll like the weight and the handling and the nimbleness, but the engine itself has very different. Now the punch it has is phenomenal, and we'll get to the riding in a little bit, but it's amazing. The low end on it, it just feels like I'm riding. It almost has a twin feel to it at the low end, which if you're off-roading, that's probably desirable. I'll leave that up to you guys. I don't off-road, and I certainly don't off-road demo bikes for my dealer, because I'm sure they'd love it if I turn this in all thrashed. Some other things that are different: we've got a split radiator now. It allows for more room and more articulation of the front tire. That's fine. I mean, I like the look of it. It looks more aggressive, and it has that presence, especially the rally model. And the rally model just looks so cool. You can get it with this white tubular frame, and it has a real. It reminds me of my Huffy when I was a kid in the 80s. Shut up. Now we have a detachable subframe. That's a big improvement for you off-road guys, because in the past you fall over, passenger foot peg catches something, and it sends the force directly to the frame, because there was no removable subframe, and you bend the frame. Well, that's a whole frame replacement. I don't know. That must cost thousands. I mean, it was a bad deal when you're marketing the bike as adventurous and capable off-road, especially when you're targeting the GS bikes. The brakes on it, Brembo all around. We got dual disc, 2-pot rotors up front. I'll put the specs in at some point, but point is, this isn't the riding segment yet, and we're going to really test these brakes to see how well they do. I will say that my ride here, clutch is buttery smooth. This bike has a quick shifter. As I understand, it works best going from second to third. It's up and down quick shift. They don't recommend it out of first gear. So take that for what it's worth. I'll toy with it. I'm so unfamiliar with quick shifters. It is such a habit to grab the clutch. You'll probably see me doing it. All right, guys, enough of that city bullshit. We're out of town. Normally I start in the city to describe how good of a commuter the bikes are. It's a good commuter, how about that? It's even lighter than a Tiger 800, and I commute on a much heavier 1200, and this is just so easy to ride. Okay, so let's get on the bike and let's hear the rumble. Throwing a leg over this is so easy. I like I said, I almost wish it was little meep meep. Okay, you can change your dash and your all that crap however you like. And as you can tell, this thing just has a wickedly different sound. So awesome. Let's get rolling. We're gonna get in front of this Porsche behind us. You know, this thing's fast, and it pulls hard right from the beginning, which is so different for me. Oh man, brake bite is strong. This thing's got guts. Let's quick shift. Oh yeah. Yeah, I could get used to that quick shift real nice. She's fun. I don't know why I keep grabbing the clutch to downshift. That's just out of habit. The handling is it's very planted. It's very self-upright. Now we'll do a takeoff in a little bit, but let me just show you a couple things. Yeah, I'm a wimp, but you can one-hand the windscreen if you'd like. And you know what? At the higher speeds, it's way the fuck more functional than you think it's gonna be. I mean, I'm still getting, you know, but actually I have a clean pocket of air for my helmet, and it's pretty impressive given the diminutive size of that thing. God, you just want to rail this thing. All right. So yeah, handling, good. This is so much sportier than I thought it was gonna feel like. Let's turn on the heated grips. It's a nice chilly day. I do notice that the heated grips are a little bit more even in heat dispersion than on my Tiger 1200 or on my 800. I don't know. Interesting. You can change your screen and stuff. You can change your settings on the fly, you know. You'll have to really kind of fiddle with this because I have had very little time on the bike. I did change the display. The thing that I would criticize is that so many of these settings, the RPM portion is a little smaller than I like, but I'm sure. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of a takeoff here. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off here. Okay, so let's just get an idea for how quick this thing is. Yeah, she's fast. There's no doubt. I can't imagine that this won't thrill you. Now, how does it stand compared to my 1200? Well, this thing's got way more instant delivery, and a lot of that's because it's a chain drive. So you're gonna get less loss of power out of a chain drive, which is good. But you know, you do have to maintain it, clean it, check its tension and all that kind of. But if you like hanging out in the garage and tinkering, then that's okay. Man, it's just
fascinating how different this is. Now, my thoughts on what they've done here with this T-plane firing order is that I feel like Yamaha ripped off the triple. Woo, we got some stoppage ahead. I feel like Yamaha ripped off the triple for their like FZ09 or whatever, and you know, Yamaha is just the king of rip-off, and I don't mean that as a hit on Yamaha. I have a Yamaha trombone, it's pretty awesome. I've been a Yamaha dude for a long time, but I recognize that they are masters of reverse engineering, and so when they came up with this, with ripping off the triple, they did such a good job, and you got such a reliable package out of it. I actually feel like they ripped off the Yamaha R1s because it's got the famous cross plane firing order, and it gives you that low end torque out of an exit, and just any gear you're in, it just fucking pulls, man. Like, it's so forgiving. This is this is so different from my 800. It's so much better than my 800 was. Now, I will say this, I'm taking a lot more wind overall than I did on my 800. It's a smaller bike, but it's okay. I mean, you don't get this bike for like, I don't think you get this bike for long haul touring. I mean, you could, don't get me wrong, you do whatever you want to do. We're gonna pull off here, but I'm very interested to see what they do with the 1200 version of this. Are they going to do a cross plane? The engine sound, it doesn't even sound like I'm on a triple. This thing's absolutely faster than my 1200, there's no question. It's definitely faster. For these country roads, what a total monster. And let's talk about this a little more. Just why the hell would you consider a road adventure bike? Well, you know, out here, it's common that I gotta park up on curbs, up in the grass, and this allows you just a little bit of rugged. Let's put the stand down. Definitely feel like I sit lower in this bike. I don't know how they have the seat set. Overall, this is spectacularly different. The handling, the balance is different. My 800, I remember thinking, wow, this thing really dives and turns, and it took some getting used to, especially when you put knobbies on them. When you do that to any bike, you're going to change the handling, and these come with, it looks like a Metzler. Let's see, yeah, Metzlers. I like Metzlers. I put these on my Tiger 1200, but if you're planning to do some dirt, you might consider like some Dunlop Trail Maxes or something. And by the way, if you're planning on dirt, do get the Rally, because it comes with the belly protection. I mean, that's got a plastic pan, you can see, but if you look under those, famously, it's kind of hollow. It really doesn't do anything. It's more to keep rocks and shit from hitting your exhaust up front, so that's not going to give you much protection. So now you could get one of these and just, you know, add on those things, but I don't know why you would do that, because you're losing a little ground clearance. And this thing sits so low, I just think about anyone could get on a Rally. Now, to give you some perspective, I'm about 6'3", and I'm lanky as shit, but which is a problem for a lot of bikes. And is this really comfortable for me? Well, I'm going to give this bike maybe another criticism. For me, it's a little too small feeling. It's not, I could do it for certain. And then if I was off-roading and I got the Rally, I'd love it. But for a long trip, my shitty joints would thank me very much. It's compact, and I think they wanted it that way. I think the average rider is, they say, like 5'10". So, you know, us freaks of nature, we're kind of up shit creek there, unfortunately. All right, we are here for a treat. Gregg is going to loan us his Rally, and we're actually going to review it. So, thanks, Gregg. All right, so we're on Gregg's Rally Pro. This is a bonus, man. So we're going to review both bikes. All right, now not only that, but Gregg has really, like I said earlier, he has upgraded the piss out of this. He's got some additional deflectors. He's got the upper cage up top. Very cool. His bike is broken in past its first service. He gave me permission to balls to the walls it. Now Gregg, now let's talk about some of the things that are on this bike that's going to affect some things. He's got a tank bag, and he's got 2 soft bags in the back, which I am very used to riding with luggage, and the balance is excellent. It does obviously add some weight. It is starkly heavier than the other bike with none of this. That said, the balance is really good, and sometimes when you start adding things to the frame and to all that, to crash bars, you start getting more vibration. I'm not getting that. Actually, this feels smoother. Now I'm riding on Dunlop Trail Maxes. These are the new hot ticket item, and seems like pretty snappy, pretty good feel on the road. This suspension's obviously taller. It feels much better to me personally, but it's noticeably higher sitting at a stop. Now, additionally, he's got his seat in the high position. I did not on the GT. This is where I would have it personally. Much more comfortable. This fits very well. If I was going to seriously off-road, this would be this is a pretty compelling package, and it's really cool to see it with all the shit on it. So yeah, run that shit. Yeah. Anyways, it's got the Triumph smell. There's a smell to a Triumph after its first service. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a burning smell. Not a bad thing, it's just different. It goes away. But yeah, I like the air deflectors already, I can tell you. And it's got the big spoked tubeless wheels. Better for off-road, a little more flexibility, less likely to break under impact. The big cage, I really like it. He says he's dropped it in his, he fell over on it on his driveway into the grass, and it was not that hard to pick up. But yeah, so I'm not going to do the full loop, but I just wanted to get on here and discuss some of the basic differences, which is the taller stance, you know, he's got different rubber on it, and he's put these big ram mount mirrors, which I like. I think they definitely work better. Yeah. And I can tell you another thing, that once the engine's broken in, it gets smoother. This thing's purring. This is awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to this is all. I mean, the where my feet are on the ground right now, there's definitely more plushness to this suspension, and I just bet when you start getting on those shitty roads, we're gonna turn her around. When you start getting on those shitty roads, this bike is gonna do a damn good job of soaking it up. Now the GT will do just fine as well, but it depends what you're gonna do with it. If you're gonna be a road only rider, GT might be just fine. Probably handles a little bit sportier, especially not on, you know, dirt tires like these. I think these are about a 60-40, could be a 70-30, but there's very little road vibration coming through. Now Gregg is a real deal off-road guy. That he goes out and does some serious stuff, and Yeah, he's got this set up really nice. I will say, again, when you put a lot of stuff on this bike like this, it feels different. The weight of the bike is more like what the older 800 feels like with no gear. So that's normal, you're adding weight. Just such a smooth bike. And as you can see, he's got this screen set up in the day mode, which definitely works better for when there's ambient light outside. So very clear in this setting. Very nice. Either one of these are going to be just fine for commuting and some little adventure riding here and there, some touring. Personally, I like a taller sitting bike. I feel more visible. I don't know if it actually adds to safety, but I feel like for me that's what works better. The way this is set up right now, I don't think I'd be railing quite as aggressively through the turns, but it doesn't feel unstable in any. It feels actually really refined, and hitting these little bumps and imperfections in the road, I'm gonna hit it on purpose. Normally you dodge this. Oh my god, it just let's call it Buick LeSabre mode, just a hovercraft. Really comfortable. And again, this has electronic suspension, so you can dial that in, which Gregg probably has this set up to his road liking for the moment. So, you know, what do you guys think? Which one would you pick? Personally, Rally for me. I love this sick ass white frame on this thing. It's so cool, so cool. And a big thanks to Gregg for letting me borrow his machine for a few minutes, and I owe him a beer for the gas.
Well guys, let's get this video done. I know it's long, but I think it's worth it. I'm glad we got to ride both of those bikes. And I just wanted to do a wrap up on what I really thought about the bikes as a whole. Now, I slept on it. I had mostly positive things to say about both of these machines. If I was going to buy one, it would be the Rally, no question. For what it is, the Rally is just an awesome package, and I have a really good feeling about the off-road capability and performance of that particular bike. Now, as for the GT, that's where I start to see some flaw with this particular bike. I mean, overall, the performance and the engine is just incredible, and there's nothing to really complain about there. So, I made a pro and con list, but not just that. I tried to go through this list, write down my pros and cons, and then decide if that was just my own crappy opinion. I'll let you guys be the ultimate judge of that. So let's do the pros first. Well, this bike has a really nice low center of gravity, and it's such a big improvement over the old models. That said, I'm a Tiger guy. Anyways, I love the way they were. These are good steps forward, and if they do this to the Tiger 1200, I may have to get me one of those. So low center of gravity, more power and more low rev power, and that's like the biggest advantage of this new 900 T plane engine that they're doing. It's awesome. So it seems to pull really well through the rev range. I know one of the criticisms of the BMW GS shift cam tech is that they say there's this dead spot. I've never ridden one, so, you know, but they say there's a dead spot in between the low immediate grunt of that bike and then the upper range. It's that area in between where the cam profile is not really optimized for. I didn't notice that on the Tiger. I noticed a pretty linear progression all the way through with the addition of a really balls to the wall low end. So they really nailed it with that. But there is a criticism about that, of course, that we'll get to. The better sound. This sounds like a Dakar bike. It sounds like when it revs out, it almost it brings chills to you. It's really cool. So I think if you weren't a fan of the whine of the triple in the past, you should check this out because it is dramatically different. Better for off-roading. And by the way, better sound. Let's see if you can get it to where you see that. Oh, look how terrible my handwriting is. It's awful. Anyways, that's it. Better sound. I can read my writing. Haha. Anyways, I made that as my opinion. I think some people could think, well, I really like the old one. So yeah, I guess it's subjective. Anyways, better off-roading. I think that's empirically true. I don't think there's no opinion about that. Detachable subframe, more ground clearance on the rally, better off-road add-ons that you can do, such as that big cage. Really, the rally is a better off-road bike than the old XC 800s were. So, awesome. Good use of tech. And not only that, but good use and not overuse. So simple where it needs to be simple. And, you know, we have the electronic rear suspension and some of those new aids, and the brakes are great, and the traction control systems have gotten better over the years. They're less gimping, like on my 2012 Tiger. It just cuts all the power, and it's just the weirdest feeling when it starts to do that. I mean, it's helpful, but it has gotten better. Now, by the way, the rally model, you know, you can set it up to these off-road settings where it really lets the rear wheel go. So if you're a person who's into that, that's awesome. And with the tech being simple, some things that I really liked was like the screen. I thought, you know, that's a great idea to have just a simple adjuster. Now, you can't do angle, and I don't know how the aftermarket's going to look for that screen, but I'm sure that V-Stream or Puig or any of those companies are going to throw it in a wind tunnel or however they do it, and they'll come up with stuff. One thing I thought I would add to this, Gregg's rally model that I rode had 2 wind deflectors, and if you go back you can see it. Maybe I'll show it here. Anyways, he had 2 wind deflectors that were add-ons. I think they were Triumph accessories. I didn't ask, but they really did add a lot to that envelope. I was really surprised and impressed. I didn't think they would do much. I could tell that those were helping. But most of you guys, I don't think you care about wind. I'm the only person on earth, I guess, that cries about it. Yeah, whatever. Okay, overall, I'm not saying anything new about how awesome this bike is, but let's try to give it some real criticism. Okay, number 1, I don't think this is an opinion. There is more vibration in this bike than there was in the 18 and 19 800 models. They were smoother. The clutch still feels great. I mean, I will say this, the shifting is better on the 900. But as far as the engine itself, the character that you get from having this T-plane firing order is, it's all good and great, but it does translate to some noticeable vibration through the foot pegs, in the handlebars. If you're planning on doing long trips, that vibration adds up. And even the vibration on this bike starts to really grate on you after a while. Now, again, you know, a 2018 Tiger 800, it was so smooth, but it almost felt like it had no character. It was so smooth, it was like I was on some kind of Goldwing hybrid machine. So if you want to feel something, you're going to get it here. But at the same time, if you don't like that vibration, you should test ride this bike first. One more thing. I would say this bike felt less touring capable than the older 800s were. I think they're really trying to, you know, focus this thing on getting it to compete with the mid-weight adventure bike segment, which is getting pretty fierce in competition. And that being said, this leads me to one more thing. Personally, the GT model, it's a nice bike. I would never buy that bike. And the reason is, to me, it is, you know, the 900 is an adventure bike, and that's a street version. And there's just a lot of bikes, even from Triumph, that I think do street a lot better. And for the price of these bikes, you can basically get on a 1200. And if you're really going to do road riding, I would rather be on this, okay? That's just me. That's my opinion. But I would recommend anyone go and test ride both bikes. You know, say I'm interested in them. But when you're talking about the GT Pro and the Rally Pro, these are like top spec bikes, and they come in around 16,000 with some additions, and not much more will get you on a 1200, especially an 18 or 19 late model. So keep that in mind, you know. Now, that being said, the GT Pro may be a good bike for you if you don't like a big heavy machine and you're just looking for something to commute on or take an occasional weekend trip. I could see someone really getting into this, or maybe like someone's first adventure bike, because it's so easy to ride, for sure. But for me, no, I would never get the GT Pro. It would be a Rally or nothing. And I think you can get the Rally in a low. I know you can get the other model in a low, so which means, you know, if the Rally's too tall, you could get one that's a little lower for you, and it's got a low seat that you can get as an accessory. You can adjust the seat, so accessibility on these bikes is pretty great. And up until you get to these 1200s, that's when that starts to change, because it's a lot more weight and it is a lot of heft and size to throw around. So, okay, next con. I say it all the time. There was so much wind on it. I couldn't even get my GoPro mic set up to sound clean. Not a big deal in the summer, but it's so chilly here. I mean, we only get like 4 months out of the year where it's just like beautiful, warm air hitting you. And I don't mind that at all, but when it's the cold air and it starts to break through my clothing, it's not as great for me at that time. Anyways, yeah, you're gonna get wind on you with this bike. So if you don't mind that, cool, you have no issue. So a lot of people I talk to, they don't care about it. Here, one more small thing. The pegs on the bike seemed a little small. I didn't notice much difference about the pegs on the Rally. It felt like my boots were trying to roll off the outside of it. So, you know, that with the vibration, I don't know. It seemed like that part could have been a little better. So, guys, I really had to dig for those criticisms. So don't think I came home and started just bitching about the bike. They're awesome machines, both of them. At the very least, go check them out. See if you can start it up. See if you can take one on a test ride, because it's a lot of fun. So, with that said, I hope that helps. If you have any questions on these bikes, please let me know, and I will go, and if I don't know the answer, I will go get you an answer. I hope if you like the video, well, come back and see me again. If not, come back and see me again. All right, well, you guys ride safe, and I'll catch you next time. No, get out of here. I'm shooting movies. Come here. Come say hi. You can have one chip, but then you gotta go. I'm shooting movies. Look, you're upsetting boxed wine. Okay, go. Go, shoot. Yeah, go ahead. Shoot. I'm shooting movies. Sit. No. Stay there. What are you doing? I knew you were trouble.